everybody, I'm Jane Orton, a jeweller, and my workshop is in the countryside overlooking views of fields and a garden. Thank you with this, so I'd like to share the outside with you in case you're having to be shut indoors and not able to go out. I started off being trained early on by an aunt who told me, Jane, you've got to learn to see. So even if you're inside and you're in the city, try and walk around the centre of Derby, and rather than looking at the sad sight of the closed shops, look up at the architecture. This is what I was taught as part of being able to see, and things look a lot better when you look at them. If you look up at a building, you'll see all the beautiful carvings sometimes, even in those old buildings in Derby. They're all very interesting. So it's definitely a different way of walking around and looking at things. But today I'm going to take you around the outside of the garden because it's a beautiful sunny day and a lot of nature has inspired my work, as well as living in a city when I was younger. The architecture and nature together, the two, I find quite interesting. The harshness sometimes of an industrial landscape to the beauty of nature and flowers and things in the countryside. So I'll start off here. It's that time of the year that's very good for azaleas and camellias and hydrangeas. So this lovely, I hope my camera shows you this lovely pink one here. And if you go right up to it, you can see right side the flower heads. And this actually is really good for trying to inspire me for earrings. And also, if you look at the garden, colour combinations. Often colour combinations are strange because you wear clothing. You sometimes don't think of putting certain colours together. Then you see it in plant form and you think, oh, actually that's really good. Like, going around perhaps in a green pair of trousers done. Here I've got these lovely snowdrops. I think they're a snowdrop, but they're very late. But again, if you get the flowers, you can see the details and the tiny tips. Again, it would be very easy to walk past something like that and not see the beauty in each one. I've got another lovely purple azalea. Purple's one of my favourite colours, along with red. I hope you can all hear me because it's very windy, and I know it's not a professional microphone which dubs out the wind. But here we are again, we've got lovely purple azaleas. I think you get a lot of inspiration from the texture of leaves, not just flowers, but the shape of a leaf, even down to here, to this, the green here. If you look, I could use the texture from these plants and roll it onto some metal and cut it out and make earrings or necklaces, anything like that. And I've done that quite a bit with my work, taking texture. And if you hear a banging sound, that's because I live near open fields and it's a crow scarer. They're busy frightening crows off the farmers' crops to stop them eating all the seed. Another more just ready to come out in bloom. And this beautiful variegated one here, I'm going to try and get walking down here is my favourite tree in the garden, which actually has inspired me with a bracelet this week. This is a handkerchief tree. I first saw this when I went on a day trip to Kent to a garden called Chartwell. It's somewhere that Winston Churchill used to live, and it was the most amazing huge tree, a lot older than this one because I just planted it recently. And it had handkerchiefs hanging down from it, or so it looked, but actually it was the flower yet. It's just starting to form. So at the moment they're a light green with a little brown pod, and it's hopefully going to come out with a mass of lovely white handkerchiefs. And if you came to be, sorry about that everybody, I thought that call was you all talking to me. I'm not used to this system. I've now got my glasses on and I can see you're all messaging me, so thank you. So yeah, I'll hold the phone back from this. You can see how beautiful this tree is going to be with its handkerchief. Now the bracelet that I made was on this weekend actually. I decided it was beautiful the way these formed here, and so I've done sort of a pod and then different sized silver balls on the pod. It was one of those jobs I decided to do, having had the bad news that we're all going to be shut in again for another 3 weeks. I decided I wanted to be hammering away at a piece of metal and melting it, so this was a perfect inspiration for me to do that. This is a really very prolific plant. I don't know, again, you could take the seed pods from the balls. And then I'm sure many of you have seen this sort of plant, this acer. Acers are quite often reproduced onto silver because people with silver clay paint over the leaves and build up lots of layers to then produce a silver form of leaf. Or in my case, I might electroform it, which means dry it out and then spray it over with a chemical to stiffen it off, lacquer it, put it in a tank of chemicals so that copper clings to it, and I can reproduce these leaves. So I'm always trying to think how I can reproduce things. I mean, there's a lot of things I can't reproduce, and it's frustrating. I'd love to be able to take some of these really delicate flowers and say, oh, amazing earrings. I mean, bluebell, aren't they beautiful? I mean, if you could work out full. Oh, there's some glass behind us. And any of you out there know any glass makers, this has been wonderful. She's made these two lovely suns, and they're brilliant at catching the light. We've put quite a bit of small glass pieces. There's a mask here again. If you go down to Stour Bridge, it's a centre apparently of glass making, and we bought that glass vase again so we could get the sun to capture the reflections and bounce back on prisms of beautiful coloured light in the garden. And then here, walking down here, got more rhododendrons. Then over here I'm moving to a magnolia. Now they're past the best now. So somebody's just said they'd love to see some jewellery when I finished it. Well, I did put on some earrings today. These have been made from hydrangeas, and the necklace, and I took different sizes of hydrangea head from the garden, took them in the house and dried them, and as I mentioned before, there's an electroforming process, so I have to lacquer it, put it in a tank of very nasty chemicals to get copper to cling, then take moulds, and it's a lot of processes involved. The thing with nature is, if you're not careful, a lot of things, as beautiful as they are, if you actually made jewellery out of them, it'd be quite uncomfortable because it'd be spiky. So walking past here, my husband keeps threatening to do topiary, but with some of these bushes and things, I'm not sure if to let him loose with the hedge cutters. I think he thinks it's going to be his hibernation project. He needs something to do. Oh, I'm going to turn around here because this is a brilliant it only comes once a year. That's the problem with blossom trees, isn't it? We only have it for a short time. But I used to love this when I was little. I used to pretend I was getting married standing in a blossom tree and it was confetti. This is a favourite tree of mine because I've got happy memories of this tree with my son, who now has left home, but he used to spend hours at this tree hiding, and you just see little legs dangling down from this tree. And they say, I don't know how well the phone's picking up on the blossom coming down, but it really is lovely. And then hanging from this tree, I've got a willow ball. Now this I made, in fact it's one thing if ever I get out of hibernation I want to do again, is I want to be able to make another willow ball. I went to a willow making workshop, and that's very therapeutic if you get a chance to do that, making balls and things out of willow. So I'll just pause under this tree so you can see the beautiful sky and everything. There look at the ground covered in blossom. Oh, now this is a silly. We've got a silly thing in the garden now. We bought it to surprise people, so when they come to the house they go, oh, look what you've got. It's a plastic sheep. We're lucky, we've got quite a few sheep next door, but we always like to have that one. Dolly the sheep, we've nicknamed them. So here we are again. Now we've got camellias. Now they're past their best, unfortunately, but still giving colour. And back into the azaleas. It's very much hard work keeping these plants down to the right size. I have to be very careful. My husband gets a bit carried away with things, so there's often domestics in our house about telling him off because he's cut things too much, and he says prune for growth, but I'm not sure about that one at times. He is right at times. I sometimes think if you cut things back they come back and flower a lot better, but I wouldn't want to admit to him that he's right on that one. So see the way look at these two pinks here. I'm not sure if this is the same plant. So we go wrapping bluebells. So we'll go down to see these, because I sometimes think to get down low and see things, you get the better ride. It's and then we've got more hellebores over here, and these are different ones. These are yellow, it's green. Again, you can see these beautiful heads. Few daffodils left flowering. I would like to know actually if somebody can ever tell me is which daffodils flower the latest. We have quite a few daffodils, and some of them seem to go on for a long time. Others, and in fact we've probably had about 2 months worth of daffodils, so there's obviously different ones that come out at different times. So carry on walking down. Now, I'm sorry about this phone. I hadn't realised how to switch people off from phoning me while I'm doing this. I'd have liked to have thought that the phone would stop ringing. sweet peas. Well, I haven't got any sweet peas. Somebody says I made a sweet pea frame out of willow. Oh, that's a brilliant idea. Yes, I mean, when I went on this workshop for the day, some people did animals' heads and things, but yes, sweet pea frames. I mean, I would have to go on a class again to do willow making, and I can't even remember the name of the lady, sadly now. I'm going to have to look that one up. But if anybody knows of somebody that can help teach me willow, I'd be really appreciative. So, oh, butterfly. Oh, well, that's a really good sight, isn't it? Butterflies starting. It shows we're heading towards summer when you get butterflies. Bluebells. So here we go again. This is another acer. Now acers come in with different coloured leaves, greens, reds, pinks, and I've often now started to buy acer trees because of the different types of bark. And if you look at this one here, you'll see it's really stripy. And on some of my work I have used tree bark as a texture. I take a photograph, make it very black and white, and then etch the photograph onto the silver and use acid to eat into the silver to replicate the tree bark pattern. But this is probably my favourite tree bark over here, and this is an acer tree again, and I think hopefully you'll see it's really peely. But as I said before, the problem with this would be, of course, reproducing anything like this. It would be so prickly, you couldn't possibly have anything as peely and curly as this next to your skin. But it's just really beautiful to look at. And then we've got a staghorn oak here, which unfortunately is dying. But it would be apparently worth saving because it's going to be a good habitat for different animals and insects. And we are lucky that I do see owls, and I don't know if they like this sort of tree, but we have owls and bats. So anything like this we tend to leave. But I'm sure trees as old as that can tell a story. They've seen a few Spanish flus and goodness knows what else, these old trees. Right. Now keep hearing these bangs. So I'll take you across the field with you. No sheep today, sadly. They always cheer me up, seeing the lambs and the sheep. I was saying it to Artcore earlier. If they're interested, another one of my walks often is in a friend's who's not far away. With social isolating considered, she's got alpacas and chickens, and that's just very inspirational going there, because collecting the eggs in the different colours, there's lots of different coloured eggs you can collect dependent upon the breed of chicken. So she's got them with yellow shells, green shells, cream shells, spotted shells. Sometimes if you come down here you can hear a woodpecker, which is why I've been hovering around slowly. This is another really lovely plant. It's like a rhubarb with big leaves. I think you can probably, hopefully you saw it there. That grows taller and taller, and then it has big spiky things on in later summer. Oh, here's a yew. Again, that's one of the things my husband's got his eyes on to do topiary now. I suppose half of it is at the moment he can't decide if to do a ball or a cube, but it takes a lot of skill, so I am slightly worried that it'll be dramatically reduced in size, as it's a bit like doing a haircut. If it goes wrong, it's going to be it's not going to be very good, because actually yew takes a long time to grow. They used to use yew, I think, a lot for making bows and arrows, the wood from yews, back in the old days. And this is another beautiful tree. I can't remember its name. I did plant it. I have a lot of trips out, when you get out, to Bluebell Arboretum out near Ticknell. And if you want trees, that's the place to go, because he has an amazing collection of really unusual trees and plants. So, yes, yews. And lots of nettles. My sons used to always be falling in nettles, coming in covered in nettle rashes. But actually, if someone went on a rapiers thing once, if you keep jumping in them enough, apparently the stinging will stop. But I probably won't demonstrate that to you today. And then we go up the garden, we've got beech. Now the thing that's interesting about the beech is it comes out at different times. Again, green. This green's been green now for about 4 or 5 days, and the rest is still this brown. And I don't know why that is, but it has a lovely rustle to it when the wind blows. And then this is again one of my favourite trees in the garden. I'm not sure what variety it is. Creaking away, but it's again some big sprucey sort. But if I pick down the flowers, the leaves here, one of those would make necklaces, earrings, all connected together somehow. So there's lots of things I could try and reproduce. Here we are, back to an Acer. This goes bright red in autumn, and it's really in its own when it's in autumn. Bright red. And it's good to look at the peely bark tree from a distance. There you can see its full shape. I'm not sure, I've been chatting along to you for 20 minutes, whether you've all had enough yet, but nearly at the end of the tour. So has anybody any further questions? I'll go further up here to see the pampas grass as a final piece, because I believe I've done the 20 minutes now. Lovely blowing in the wind with its rustling sound. Well, that's it. Thank you very much. Hope you all enjoyed the outside for a bit, and hope you all get an opportunity to get outside at some point soon. If not, and you don't, perhaps I'll be doing another tour around with alpacas. But remember, when you're out and about amongst buildings, look up. It's much more interesting than looking down. But just don't go crashing into a lamppost. Bye.